hire one extra engineer, but they actually over time are having one less salesperson. But now, when they go to customer meetings, instead of the purchasing agent and the salesperson, we say, we're bringing an engineer, can you bring your engineer? They bring an engineer, the engineers talk to each other, and what happens is, they go, hey, those guys have pretty good engineers. Boom, you're showing your strength in the marketplace. And we were actually able to increase close rates on meetings 35% at that company by doing that strategy. And we didn't actually measure pricing, but that is a key piece on pricing too. I'm going to get to that in a second. But those kinds of things take pricing and show the value and take pricing away from that direct comparison to competition. So, that making sense? Okay. I'm feeling like I'm doing a lot of talking, and I see some head nods, so I'm kind of gauging that as a positive as opposed to, oof. But I'm not getting that many questions and interactions, so please feel free to jump in. Ron, did you want
I got a question to kind of tie it together. So when you talk about taking your premises out to your customer base, like a voice of customer survey would be a way to do that, to kind of test those. You put them out there, how important are these things to you? Have them rank them, and if your SWOT said that these top 4 things are your most important, your customers may come back and say, no, those aren't important, these
Right.
are instead. Or they may validate what you said, and they may go, you know what, you're right on the money. And then before you go and, like you said, invest in marketing or set up a whole website based on your own assumptions, you can get those validated first, and then
Definitely
build on
agree.
those.
Definitely agree with you there. Definitely agree. You know, one of the best examples I have, I was working at a $10 billion company, and we did some SWOTs, and one of the strengths was on-time delivery, 99.6%. And I go, that's great. How important is that to our customer? Oh my gosh, it's the most important thing. Because if you ask them, is on-time delivery important? What do they say? Of course it is. But what's critical, and that's why it's kind of hard to do in surveys on some of these, because if you say, how important is on-time delivery? Very important, very important, very important. And you end up with everything's very important, and you gotta go, which do I choose from? You do the what if, and this is what we do when we do voice of customers. What if? Okay, great, on-time delivery is important. What if we took it from 99.6 to 92, and we were able to give you something else in return? Would you do that? And they go, what do you mean? Yeah, that's interesting. Because the company I was working for, they kept 2 weeks of inventory in their warehouse. So they didn't care if it was 99.6. They could deal with, and we got it down to like 90%. If we had 90% on time, but we'd get it there within 2 weeks. It just wasn't, you know, that day. That 90, this is a big company, but that 98 to 90 saved us $5 million. $5 million to the bottom line, EBITDA. And you know what we did? We gave them $1 million, and we kept the other 4. And so we went in and said, well, what if we were able to take it from 99 to 90, but we gave you a 1% price decrease? What if we did that? Would that be a good thing to you? And now you're having a different conversation. You know, the what if conversations are really important when we do these, as opposed to the, is this important, is this important, is this important? It's like, this is important, but what if we gave you that? Is this more important than that, or is that more important than this? That's where things start getting really interesting, because you see what's really important to them. And what we learned in that instance was, they got 2 weeks inventory. All they need to do was make sure their plants, you know, or their plant just kept continually ran. But if we were able to have it there in 2 weeks, they were great. And the 1% price decrease, oh my gosh, they're giddy. They are giddy with excitement. Because nobody comes in and says a price decrease, which I'm going to talk about in a second, how you can and should do that with your customers in order to get a price increase later. Because that was a price increase for us. We took a big price increase by doing that. They saw it as a decrease. For us, it was an increase. Just another way to do a price increase. Sure. So I went on a little bit more on the survey, but I think the survey of understanding that is really critical. Any other questions? Because I'm going to switch gears again. Okay. So, you know, we talked about all those before. The third one is new terrain. And, you know, a lot of people go, my category is saturated, there's low growth, I need to look at new segments to go into. And that's great. I've done this probably 5 or 6 times in my career, and one of the biggest times was, I moved to Wisconsin because I had a strategy in acquisitions and business development at Sargento. So I literally am a cheesehead. But one of my key strategies here was, getting into other cheese-related products beyond just cheese. So we were into sauces and meals and all that stuff, which allowed us to have higher margins than cheese. So I've done this, many times, and it can be a really good strategy to do, but you can't just wander into it thinking it's going to be far less competitive than your current business. So you got to really think about, when to do it. The first piece we always talk about is look at your current customers first. Do this before you look somewhere else, because a lot of times people go, oh, couldn't possibly grow anymore in our current. And if you talk to the salespeople, they might have been trying for 20 years to get more business from our customer. They go, oh, we can't get more business from that customer. And so then they go, well, let's go over there then, because that looks easy. And salespeople like to sell more things, so they go, well, if we can sell this and this and this, and these, that'll be better than just one category. So do this before you go into other categories. And then when you look at the new customers, where is the growth? Is it adjacent? Is it new? Is it geographic? That's the way I always think about it. Adjacent is same current core competencies, really close, and new is new competencies. You'd rather start here, always start here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these, and I'm going to show you an example. I did talk about this one last time, so I'm going to kind of go through this quickly, but this is another Vistage company in Chicago that hired me a long time ago because they said that they've been flat for 14 years. I mean, like 1% for 14 years. And they go, we got to go into a new category. We just can't stay in this one anymore. So I said, okay, great, but first we're going to look at it and let's see if you could grow in your current. And so this is a great, great tool, a very simple tool that I always tell companies to do. And this is one that I humbly submit you guys could put like above your desk, because I think this is a great tool to just understand your business. It just really talks about current customers and customer potential. So this is just ranking of your current customers. Top customers, second, all the way to the lowest. Profit preferably, but you can do it in dollars, either way. And I'm sure you guys all have that ranking. This starts to get a little bit more interesting. This is profit potential or sales potential. So this is half art, half science. So the science is, like in this particular company, when we first did this, all these guys were over here. They were all kind of jam-packed over here, because the sales guys go, well, we've been trying to sell into Brunswick for 15 years. We can't get any more business there. Okay, well, let's look at the science part first. They were selling into one division of Brunswick. There are 8 divisions of Brunswick. They were dual suppliers, and they were 40%, the other guy was 60%. So they were technically selling about maybe 1/10 of the total potential business, and their product worked across 6 of the 8 divisions. They were selling about 1/10 of what they could be selling to Brunswick. That doesn't mean it's easy, or they can get it, but that's the science part. Hey, Brunswick, huge opportunity, huge. John Deere, Oshkosh, some huge opportunities out here. They just haven't figured out a way to get in them yet. Okay, great, got it. Now you're talking about a strategy. Now you can start getting into a strategy. So you do that with all these things, and then you end up with you step back and you go, here's what my business looks like from my potential. And I actually have, where are those things? I actually have a couple of these little cards that you guys can write on, little Sharpies, and then it has a little description on the back if you want one of these things for this kind of thing. So I'll just put these things here if you want them. Great, if you don't, I'll take them back, because you don't have to take them. Don't take them because I put them there, take them because you want one. So you do this, and then this gets kind of interesting, and when I say put it up on your above your desk, because it tells you, hey, where should I be focusing here? Where are the opportunities? But the real important part is then what do you do about it? Because that's what we always say. Okay, interesting. What do you do about it? Okay, you start putting together your strategies for your current customers. So the first ones you start getting into are sales call strategy. This company was making the same number of calls here as they were here. And they're going in person, they're flying out to go see Octane Fitness, which was, I don't know, New Jersey. They're going to, and so, stop. Let's slice it this way, and that quadrant, this quadrant, these guys, never going to get another sales direct call again. We're going to be super nice to them on emails and phone. We're never going to go visit them again. because they're small and they don't have growth potential. Why would we spend the time and effort on that? These guys, 3 times as many calls. And when you go, you better have something. Don't just come in and say, hey, look at all the stuff we could sell you. So we have to arm them with the right tools up here. Now this becomes strategic. So that's the first thing you start doing is you say specific sales call strategies. So now the head of sales there, you got a call strategy. So you got a call strategy, now you're gonna hold your salespeople accountable for that call strategy. So that's kind of the first strategy. You have some pricing strategies. Down here, these guys get price increases right away. Because chances are, they're losing money down here. They couldn't measure it, they didn't have direct customer profitability, but they're losing money. So the bottom, that last chart, there's another 75 customers. The bottom 50, 10% price increase on Monday. The next 50 got 3% price increases 2 months later because they just couldn't handle it all. But you gotta do that because these guys don't have a lot of potential. And then what it allows you to do here is you could put together a 2-year or 3 or a 4-year price stability, give them a 1% reduction for 4 years. Because all you want to do is maintain these guys. They're big, but they can't grow. I just want to hold on to that. So what do? Give them a 1% reduction, ask for 4 years of commitment, or maybe it's 2% for 4 years, and you get that nailed out. Now you can spend all your time over here with sales, engineering, product development. Everything is about these guys. Hold on to that, get money here, and grow these guys. So, and this is where, I say put this above your desk, because I humbly submit to you guys, your strategy, a big part of your strategy should be, how do I grow these customers? Because if you can get if they can get into 1 or 2 more Brunswick divisions, boom, the company's growing 10%. Instead of all this crap down here that they're in, that they'll never get business from. Focus all your effort on one more win at Brunswick, gets you 10% company growth. So let's get in a room next week and talk about Brunswick and what do we need to do to get into Brunswick and get that 10% growth. Now you got a strategy. It's our Brunswick growth strategy. So I do this all the time, and so you have separate strategies on all these guys. Now, hopefully they'll overlap. If you're doing like, hey, we need to give a new product or a new service, you try to do it for as many as you can. But what you want to do is really figure out how can I get some growth from those guys. A couple of home runs out there is going to be, instead of the salesperson comes in, hey, I got this new product for Octane Fitness. The engineer's been doing some great work on this. We're going to develop it. Okay. What you do is you look at this, you go, nope, take that. What are you going to do on Brunswick? Stop that. Do that. What are you going to do for Oshkosh? So all of a sudden, you guys can put the strategy to your company to really, be laser focused on where your company's going to go. And then what happens is you say, how much can I get from my current business? And this is what we did for those guys. We said we can get 5% for the next 5 years. The CEO was like, ooh, this is awesome. Because what they wanted, the new segment they wanted to go into was automotive. So it was capital, new salespeople, new engineers. I said, oh man, don't start that. Let me do this first. Let's do this first. And when we got done with this, he goes, oh good, I don't have to go into automotive because that's so risky. So you do this before you think of new segments. And let's say this company needed to grow at 20, and you say, okay, I can get 5 from my current. Okay, now I got to get 15 from the new segment. So that's when you start saying, okay, let's go into the new segment. So I do have this fun little, how do you look at new segments? Anybody like red wine? Anybody? Oh, got some people's attention, yeah. So let's say we're in a wine glass business. We make glass, wine glasses, okay? So here's our current customer, here's our current products. We got a bunch of different sizes and stuff, and we sell that, okay? So this is the analogy of how do we look to new marketplaces. So this is the customers here, and sorry, this is products. So this is current, new, current, new. So we're in the wine glass business. If we said, we want to sell the same product, the exact same product, to a different customer. Okay, restaurants use lots of wine. Okay, let's sell it to restaurants. Okay, totally different customer, different sales channel, different distribution channel, all that stuff's totally different. Product's exactly the same. Okay, that would be an interesting opportunity for this company. What if you said, we want to sell to the exact same customer, but a totally different product? Well, if you're drinking wine, you probably need you're storing wine, so you need a wine case and a wine holder. So totally different product, You know, we're in wood, we don't make wood, we're in glass, etc. And so up here, the new is, well, the healthcare is growing. What if we were to make beakers for healthcare? Big growing business, totally new customer, totally new product, etc., etc. So what I wanted to do here is just, again, I humbly submit to you guys, your guys' business, you can do whatever you want, but I think this is a great exercise to do once a year or twice a year. Not twice a year, once a year or every other year. To force yourself to do this exercise with your company. Where would we go? So, for example, I always say, if you're in the product business, what service could you add? Well, we're not in the service business, we're in the product business. I know that. What service could you add? You might not even charge for it, but what service could you add? If you're in the service business, what product could you add? Where could you go geographically? What new segments could you go into? Down here, how could you differentiate? What's your point of difference? How do you differentiate versus competition? How do you improve existing products? How do you do all these things? So force yourself to do this in each quadrant and say, this is what our company could look like. Now, it's more of a, you know, it's a what if scenario. And then you say, okay, now strategically, what should we do? And it's great because what you do is you uncover things that you go, that is awesome. I think that's 3 years out, but that is awesome. I never would have thought of that. We want to do that. So if it's 3 years out or 4 years or 6 years out, what do we need to do now to start being ready for that 6 years from now? Oh, yeah, we should start thinking about that. As opposed to, oh crap, we're not growing, what are we going to do next year? So then your strategies all tend to be things that are really close in. You see what I mean on that? So we love data at Chief Outsiders. We use data all the time. So we did a market study, a lot of big companies, a lot of easy information on big companies, Harvard Business Review, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Hard to get information on small to mid-sized companies, but we did a study with 200 companies, 26 industries across the country, all growing, and we put them into these quadrants and we said, where did they get their growth? So it's really interesting data here. You guys want to know where that came out? Anybody kind of look at this? Well, where do you guys think they came out? Where do you think they were, where they got most of their growth? Current down here? Anybody else? Thoughts? People agreeing with that kind of? I see some head nods. Here. So they got it all over, as you can imagine. You're probably kind of going, this guy can't count very well because the numbers are really funky. Why did he do the numbers like that? That's where they got most of their business. Number one, they differentiated. So current, how do you know your competitor? How do you get your value proposition? All that stuff is where they got most of their growth. Because their competitors did not do that. So that's number one. Number two, entering new segments. They entered new segments. Number three was improving existing products and services. And I always humbly submit your product families that you have should have a product improvement every other year. And the product improvement doesn't have to be a product. It could be a package. It could be a service that you add to it. It could even be the positioning that you do. Like the one company that I talked to you earlier, where it was the restaurant supply company. Well, they had, I think it was 3,200 SKUs, 3,200 products. And when they went to the marketplace, it was like insanely confusing. Insanely confusing. So first thing I came in and let's put these things in product families. So what we did is we made 5 product families and we designed them and we kind of said, this is a product family and here's the items in that, and they used to have a catalog that was like 3,000 pages that they would go boom on the guy's desk and they'd be looking through it and it was like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. We did this product family, we went out to the marketplace and we said, here's our new product family. And the customer said, oh my gosh, your portfolio is awesome, it's really improved. Because they had no idea what they sold, it was too complex. So our product improvement was organizing the products and labeling it and making it easy for the customer to understand it. And you know what happened? They bought more product because they didn't realize that we sold all these other things. They didn't because it was too difficult, they just go, I'm not even going to get into it. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do to product improvement. And the important part was going to the marketplace and finding out that that was a need first. And then not, hey, let's change it. It's what do they need? and they said the marketplace is really complex and confusing. Hey, we can do that. We can make it easier. Everyone else stay complex. We'll make it easy. So that's 3, 4 new products and services, 5 expanding geographically. Nobody was up here. Now, when we split it by industry, the tech sector had a bunch of stuff up here, but when you add it all up, so you don't need to do that. You might want to think about it out there. You know, and in companies I've worked for, I always said, force ourselves to think about that, and then we go, too risky. And we said, we're not going to do it. But by forcing us to think of that, sometimes we added a service. We go, that's cool, that's way too risky, but what if we added something like that down here? Hey, we could do that. So for example, an example of that, I'm at Sargento. We're selling into food service, and I don't know if you guys know, but cheese is actually a commodity. It's sold on the commodity exchange. So the prices are like this. And we're selling to McDonald's, and it's like 1/10 of 1 cent is a big deal. You know, and you're in, you're out, blah, blah, blah. And McDonald's goes, you're in this 6 months, then you're out, now you're in, you're out, now you're in. And you go, we're in, we're out, we're in. Yeah, it was a mess for a manufacturer. Because your manufacturing would go like, mess. So we said, hey, we could do, you know, totally new is let's come up with a totally new business model that takes it off the commodity market, da-da-da. You know, we're going, cool, never happened. But we go, what if we were able to take that out of the cycle here? So what we did is we actually went to McDonald's and we said, we will give you a flat price for 3, well, I guess it was 2 years. We'll give you a flat price for 2 years, which is what they needed because they said, we can't change our menu. We need predictability. That 1/10 of a penny wasn't as important as the predictability was. So we said, we'll go into the futures business. We just hired an outside company. We said, buy cheese 2 years out. Just give us a flat fee. And so they did that for our service, and then we gave that to McDonald's. And you know what happened? We got McDonald's business for 2 years. We had never had it for more than 4 months at a time. We're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. We had it for 2 years. And then what happened at the end of the 2 years? They re-upped with us again for another 2 years. Because they said, you guys are doing what we need. And the 1/10 of a penny, we're actually able to take a little bit of a price increase because we are adding a service that we never would have thought about if we didn't kind of force ourselves to get crazy up there and then come back. You know, I would say you never know if you've gone far enough until you go too far, and then go, oh, too far, I can tell, I'm going to step back. And this is like an area that we could play. So that's kind of how you look at the next piece. And then you put it into this horizon growth thing. And Gina, you've probably seen this with Mark. You figure out, what is that? So if I want to do that first, then maybe that second and that third, you put it in this horizon growth, and you go, oh, there's our growth plan for the next couple of years. And that's kind of, you know, that sounded like way easier than it is. But that's kind of how the process works to get, how much can we get from our current, how much can we get from new, which parts of new, how do we sequence it? That's kind of the systematic growth orientation, all based on that information, that insights you got earlier.
Well, this is basically what Interquep has been working on for the last years. How long did it take you to get to where you finally pulled the trigger and went after food? How long did the development process take?
We probably realized that about 4 to 6.
Yeah, 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
You know, food has been 50% of our business forever. It's just that we've taken it for granted.
Yeah.
We haven't put any marketing into it, and that's where we looked at it and said, all right, what part of that are we not getting? And we realized there was more on the table than we thought there was. So we decided to take more resources and put it into that, try to grow that, because it's our bread and butter. It's most profitable line and most popular. We're kind of the household name there, so we're just leveraging that better.
And that's just getting started now, that process. Have you seen any results from that yet?
Well, food did grow quite a bit last year, actually. Some of it from the marketing efforts and some just from, I guess, paying more attention to it, taking those opportunities more seriously when they came in. We didn't let any mold grow on them, so to speak.
Yeah.
We gave it more of a priority. I was going to add too, if you don't mind, this process is pretty cool too, the horizon. And when you're looking at new markets, you know, we looked at the craft brewing industry as an example. We also looked at the new hemp oil processing. And so Mark helped us do the research on that.
That's 3 of you guys now.
Okay. Dude.
Mark, encouraged us to do the research before we just said, hey, let's just start writing blogs and let's start, diving into this market. Let's see how big the potential really is
Yeah.
first, and gave us a tool actually that we could take any of these new markets and run it through and do a financial model on it and say, all right, where are they used in that process? How many are in each system? What size are they? And, we did our research, found out that every processing system has at least 4 or shell and tube heat exchangers on it. Pilot scale, they're just little guys, not much bigger than a loaf of bread. And they're probably valued at sort of $3,500 a piece. So if you take that times 4, and they take the profit level off of that, and then you take how many of those OEMs are there, how many skids are they building, and you roll that all out, and you can actually get your potential market value of that. And then how much of that are we likely to get? There's not a lot of competition in there yet.
Right.
I think we want to be the first one in, so that when it grows, we want, those are all the steps that we took. We actually did put it as a Horizon 1, because we got enough experience in there now with the several projects that we've landed that we could probably launch faster than anybody else can. But that's an example of, we were anxious just to get it rolling right away. Ready,
Right.
fire, aim, you're just,
Yeah.
let's start marketing to this industry without doing any research.
That approach ended up being very helpful and successful.
It did, and there were some other ones that we had as low-hanging fruit as well. Like a double tube exchanger, which is for potable water in the commercial industry. It's one of those where we looked at our competitors, and one of those where it's very saturated, it's very low margin, it's very hard to break into that. We would have had to retool and put in a whole line of equipment in order to be able to do that. And we were real excited about it. We even had an OEM customer that was guaranteeing us a certain level of volume. We ran it through the first time, and then we got real excited. We ran it through again the second time with a little more realistic viewpoint, and pulled the plug on it. We put it out there in Horizon 3 or 4, so why do we want to get down in the mud with all these other competitors in that one market when we're being so much more profitable in these other areas?
Yeah, that's how to avoid those nasty markets where you're gonna get into price wars.
Right.
Price is gonna come down, your margin's gonna come down, you're gonna go, oh, this is a terrible market. But if you looked out, you might say, that's a better market for me to be in.
Right. Yeah, it's hard when these contractors can go to a catalog and buy an exchanger like that for $600, where ours would be $3,500. It's an apples to oranges kind of market. Where in our custom sanitary equipment, they're going to pay whatever we charge because we're one of the only games in town. So.
Yeah, right.
Let's move into pricing.
Yep, that's the next thing. Well, that's just how to use that, which we talked about. So talking about pricing here, here's a question I always ask CEOs. What's 1% worth? So if you're a 5% EBITDA company, and you were able to get 1% more in pricing and take it all the way to the bottom line, what's that worth you? I mean, in a percent growth. Anybody? I mean, just
Yes, that is correct.
numbers off the top of your head?
$1.5 million.
Well, I was talking percents, but it would be, yeah, it would be right about that. But if you look at it in a percent basis, it's worth 17%. So if you're 100, here's real easy math. $100 million company, you're taking $5 million to the bottom line in EBITDA. You take a 1%, that gets you to 6. 6 to 5 is 17%. So if you're able to get half of it, if you're able to get 0.5%, that's 8. So, and if you're a $50 million company, you can just kind of do the math in your head. But the net is, it's way more than most CEOs think. And the other way I would phrase it is, when, at least the company, I'm sure not with you guys, but a lot of companies that I work with, the CEO spends about this much time on pricing a year. The CFO and the head of sales put together something and they come in and they go, this, what do you think? And you go, yeah, let's get a little bit more here, done, good, I'm glad I don't have to think about pricing for a while. And it comes when you have a cost of goods increase. That's when it happens. So what you're doing is a couple of things. A, you're reacting, and B, you're teaching your customer that you're a commodity by doing that. Because what you're doing is saying, my cost went up this much, and I'm not adding any more value than my competitor, so I'm taking my price up this much. And then all your competitors are doing it at the same time, and they all see it. And what you're doing is you're not intentionally, but you're teaching your customers that you're a commodity. And so this is kind of, I'm not going to give you a mathematical model on pricing. There's a lot of people do that. I'm going to talk about a strategic model for pricing. And what, again, I humbly submit to you guys is this should be, whatever time you're spending on it now, you might want to think about doubling or tripling the amount of time on pricing. Because of that. Because of that. So if you did everything else wrong, but you did this right, and you got 17%, would that be a good year? be a pretty good year. So that's why I'm kind of, again, humbly submitting to you guys that a little more time on this can, and it's not just how do you get more pricing, it's how do you develop your point of difference so you can get more pricing? And I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit. So most companies do cost plus. Is that what most companies do here? Most companies do that. Don't feel bad about it. It's what 98% of companies do, cost plus. Most companies react when their costs go up in the marketplace. Most of them are an accounting or a sales or combination kind of practice. Hardly anyone has a pricing margin strategy. Like if I were to ask you guys, what's your pricing strategy? Because I guess if I had to articulate it, when our costs go up, I'll take pricing at a level commensurate with the cost and commensurate with competition. That's what most, if you had to make it a strategy, that's what most companies would tell me. So I humbly submit you're leaving money on the table. So let's talk a little bit about this. So I'm going to give you a couple of pieces here, and again, we're going to go through it. Everything here is a little bit of a high level, but so you feel free to reach out to me afterwards. We can talk a little bit more about this. But when do you take pricing? Where do you take pricing? How do you take pricing? And then, really importantly, how do you add value so you can get more pricing later? Because I'm not going to give you a secret formula that you get extra 3 margin points out of pricing this year. But what I am going to talk to you about is how do you get 3 margin points out of pricing next year, the year after? Get half a margin point this year, and then 3 points a couple years down the road. That's the win. And you've heard me talk a couple times, like when I was at Sargento, how we did that with McDonald's by giving them a service. We kept the price the same. Well, no, actually, we took the price up on that, but that became a hidden price increase. Or the other one where I said we took out a service or reduced a service, gave them some of it and kept some of it. That's a hidden price increase in my vernacular. That's what I'm saying. We have figured out ways to price so that we got benefit. And importantly, gave something to our customers. Whether you gave it to them in some sort of product or service, or you gave it to them in pricing, or you gave it to them in cost reduction, you gave them something so you could get more pricing. That's the way to think about this. Not, we got more, they got nothing. So that's kind of how to avoid it and make it a strategic piece. So let's talk about this a little bit. When to take pricing. I talked about this earlier. Preferably you take it here. Most companies take it here. A lot of companies take it here. Oh crap, our profit's terrible, we better take a price increase. Well, you know what? Your customer's profit's probably terrible too, and they're going to be ticked that you're taking a price increase. And so what they're going to do is they're going to fight you for every 1/10 of a point of price increase. And all your competitors are going to be taking pricing there too. So what's happening? They're seeing all your competitors, and they're seeing you, and they're going, I'm going to make you guys all the same. So what happens is you get nothing. So the key, take it strategically when your business is growing and when their business is growing. Get off the cycle of competitors. So let me give you an example. Another client I'm working with in Milwaukee, stainless steel company. I said, we got to get ahead of what's going on with Trump and China and tariffs. We got to get ahead of that because everyone's going to come right when that cost goes up and everyone's going to come out with the same price increase. So I said, we got to get 6 months, 5-6 months ahead of it. So we took a 3% price increase in September. Nobody else took a price increase, none of the competitors, because the cost didn't change. We took a 3%, not that big, went right through. Boom, right through. And then all the crap happened, and then everyone says, oh my gosh, we got to take a 5% price increase? So we came in at 4. So you know what we got? We got 7. Everybody got 5. We got 2 points. It was $1 million to that company. It was like $900,000 profit to that company in 2019. They could do everything else wrong and that right, and they had a good year. Done. Done. The year is good. On strategically thinking about pricing and doing it different than competition. And you know what their customers said? Well, you didn't take as big of a price increase. They don't remember 4 months ago. They don't. Maybe the purchasing agent does. But a lot of the people they deal with on a going basis don't remember all that stuff. They don't track it. They remember what's happening today. And all the competitors took 5 and you took, or 5 and you took 4. Yeah, all the competitors took 5 and you were a point lower. They remember that. I mean, they don't give you, oh, thank you very much. They just go, oh, those guys took a lesser price increase. You never hear about it, but it just slides right through. So that's the best time to take pricing. Is that making sense to you guys?
So when
Alright, at this point, my factory and one construction of footwear is at full bore. I'm having to put another line in to match. We've had to take our offering from here to here because it represented 75% of our business, and we weren't making customers happy by not giving 75% because we were too worried about the outside. But it's, at this point, I said, we're gonna take a 3% price increase, but it's like, should I have taken 5? I mean, at that point, because the demand is so high
Yeah, maybe,
on the product.
maybe. You were incredibly insightful by taking it here, and then you just gotta think of, you know, you might be able to come back and take another one. I don't know what the environment's going, if it's still rocketing
It's
or
hard to
kinda-
take it's hard
in a
to
year?
take 2 in a year.
Okay,
The only time you can take 2 in a year is if one of the commodities, the commodity, which is leather, is the #1
Right.
commodity in my industry. If that all of a sudden takes off and